carried off on the shoulders of giants.
This is as good as it gets. And the great thing about it, it lasts forever.
They are the motivators.
Everybody look at me, okay? Get your damn head up, look at the man, let's talk. Let's communicate. Let's be mentally tough.
The innovators.
It looks like confusion to anybody who doesn't know much about the game. But as you learn the game, it becomes very scientific.
The ultimate leaders.
One stupid play, one stupid penalty, one mistake ends it for all of us.
It's time to explore the legacy, history, and evolution of the NFL head coach. It's NFL Explained, Evolution of the NFL Head Coaching Universe.
In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
What Patrick Mahomes does on a football field is mind-boggling at times.
He looks like the dad playing in the backyard with all the kids and they can't get him on the ground.
His style of play, the new bar everyone else is chasing.
Shout out my teammates, baby. We're Super Bowl champs, baby. Let's go.
Would Mahomes be Mahomes, though, without Andy Reid?
Just easy throws.
Okay, yes, sir.
What would Tom Brady have been had his coach been someone other than Bill Belichick?
I can't stand it. Run it again. Huddle up and run it again, Brady.
What's Joe Montana without Bill Walsh?
Woo, pretty. That's great. Okay, let's try it again.
And furthermore, how are they all connected? The NFL head coaching universe is over 100 years old, made up of 10 key solar systems and 2 small asteroid fields. Within them, every Hall of Fame and Super Bowl winning head coach, as well as every team's most iconic lead man, mapped out so we can see how they're ultimately all related. And so it's clear, for this exploration, just serving as someone's assistant at some point does not place them in that head coach's orbit. Sean McVay, for example, is connected to Mike Shanahan, but that's not the moon he circles. We start our journey with the largest head coaching solar system there is, beginning at the edge of the universe, where we find the newest and youngest moons in the game. Appropriate, we begin with McVay then, because when the LA Rams hired him, he was a mere 30 years old, youngest in NFL history. McVay's importance historically already evident as he set off a wave of hiring focused on youth that's never been seen before.
Excited to get going.
Getting the job was one thing. Succeeding at it would be the key to opening doors to other 30-somethings.
Let's get the age thing out of the way. Sean McVay is young.
And Sean McVay, a winner in his debut.
You're sure you're only 30, right?
Yes, sir.
It took McVay all of 2 seasons to make his first Super Bowl.
It's great, right? Feels like the Super Bowl should feel.
All of 5 seasons to win his first.
We're world champs! Yes, sir! We're world champs! I knew you'd make that play! We're world champs! I knew you would make that play!
And who was coaching against him when he hoisted the Lombardi for the first time? One of his proteges, Zach Taylor, another 30-something.
Congrats, man. Love you. Thank you for everything.
You're such a baller, man. You're so good.
McVay's impact in just his first 7 years has been as profound as any coach's ever. Taylor, Brandon Staley, Kevin O'Connell, all McVay first-generation assistants, land jobs as head coaches, all of them hired in their 30s, as was Brian Callahan, who Tennessee hired away from Taylor in 2024. Mike McDaniel, Mike McDonald, Matt LaFleur, DeMeco Ryans, Shane Steichen, Gerard Mayo, all hired in their 30s post McVay's showing up on the map. When the 2024 season began, half of the men leading the charge were coaches who got their first lead gigs before their 40th birthdays.
He's really shown a lot of us young guys that you can do it your own way. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been done, for the last 20 years, maybe around the league.
The way the players have ownership of their culture, their football philosophy, how they want to play, how they want to operate on a daily basis. So much of it is built by Sean. It's all built by Sean.
Yeah, Sean is a tremendous leader. I think a lot gets made about his age and whatnot. I think he's wise beyond his years. I just learned so much from him in terms of how important that communication is, not only with your staff, but with your players, and developing relationships and ultimately being true to yourself.
So, where did McVay's moon come from? His lineage passes through Jay Gruden, who he was an offensive coordinator for in Washington for 3 years prior to taking the LA job. Gruden, former Minnesota lead man Mike Zimmer, who has Kevin Stefanski as coaching offspring, Vance Joseph, and Hugh Jackson, all descendants of former Bengals head coach Marvin Lewis.
The opportunity ahead of us, we got to go and take it.
Lewis had a long run in Cincinnati, coached them from 2003 to 2018. He turned the franchise around. They hadn't had a winning season in 12 years when he took over. He took them to the playoffs 7 times.
We don't always have perfect play, but we got the next play, I'm telling you.
Only problem was Lewis never won a single playoff game. Prior to taking the Bengals job, Lewis was defensive coordinator for Baltimore Ravens head coach Brian Billick. One season spent under Steve Spurrier as DC in Washington in between those 2 roles.
You said you're disappointed in the media. You've called us 3 or 4 different names already. What is your purview that you could stand up there and tell 200 people how to do their jobs?
Is that I have the podium and you all are here to listen to me.
Billick led the Ravens from 1999 to 2007, winning a Super Bowl in 2000 behind one of the most vaunted defenses in NFL history.
The pundits and the experts are going to pick this apart and talk to me about some kiss-ass third down percentage or red zone. Hey, come on. When you go into the Lion's Den, you don't tippy-toe in. You carry a spear, you go in screaming like a banshee, and you kick whatever door is in and say, where's the son of a...
Billick's boisterous personality rubbed off on one of his protégés, as few head coaches have ever commanded the spotlight, or Mike in this case, the way Rex Ryan did.
What our fans are going to be like when you have the hated Patriots. I mean, your...
Let her rip, man. 2 pair of socks, got the long undies on. Take a it might take me a half hour, but other than that.
3 home teams advance, and the
Billick is part of a trio of former Vikings assistants who moved up after spending time under Dennis Green. Mike Tice and Tony Dungy, the other 2. Dungy was Green's DC when he left for Tampa Bay. He quickly built a Super Bowl contending team.
The Bucs was nothing before Tony got there. He built the pyramid right in front of us and said, this is how we're going to do it.
We got to practice doing things right all the time, little things, details.
When Tampa Bay decided to trade for Raiders head coach John Gruden, the Colts jumped on the chance to sign Dungy. He molded the defense into a top-tier unit, Peyton Manning led the offense, and Dungy became the first African-American head coach to hoist the Lombardi.
I'm proud to be representing African-American coaches, to be the first African-American to win this. That means an awful lot to our country.
Dungy is responsible for 2 head coaching moons. Herm Edwards, he held down the head job for the Chiefs and the Jets. And Jim Caldwell, he replaced Dungy in Indianapolis and also led Detroit. But back to Green, you can see that ultimately he was the head coach to start the ripple effect that led to McVay. He ran the show in Minnesota from 1992 to 2001. He led them to the playoffs 8 out of the 10 years he was there, made 2 NFC Conference Championship games.
All right, let's rock and roll here. Here we go.
Green captained the Cardinals for 3 years as well. That's where he was when he unleashed one of the most famous post-game rants on record.
That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Green, not the only significant coach found in his orbit either. He's 1/4 of one of the most important offshoots there is in any system in the universe. Green, Sam Weish, George Seifert, Mike Holmgren, all San Francisco assistants under Bill Walsh prior to landing their respective head coaching gigs. Weish left the Walsh nest in 1982, spent 1 year at Indiana, eventually taking the Bengals job in 1984 and holding it till 1991. Weish, a Cincinnati icon for leading the Bengals back to the Super Bowl and for putting an unforgettable stamp on their in-state rivalry with the Browns.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, and get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati.
Weish also coached the Buccaneers for 4 years from 1992 to 1995. Several significant men circle Weich's moon. He begat Bruce Coslet, who landed with the Jets at first, from 1990 to 1993. His defensive coordinator those 4 seasons, Pete Carroll, who took over in New York when Coslet left.
Well, I basically believe football should be played with great aggressiveness and an attacking style and in a very physical manner.
Carroll only lasted 1 year as the Jets head coach. He went to the 49ers as their defensive coordinator, then took over the Patriots head coaching job, lasting 3 years there.
What lies ahead? I'm sure will be challenges, and I'm
Looking forward to taking on those challenges as new beginnings.
Carroll would leave the NFL ranks for USC, but after winning 2 titles, returned to the big leagues, taking the job in Seattle, where he would morph into a Hall of Fame caliber coach from 2010 to 2023.
Hey, Mark, you got to have a big day today now. Let's go.
Absolutely, Coach.
Let's go. Please let me know what's going on, okay? Because I don't know nothing over here.
I'll talk to you. I'll talk to y'all.
Carroll led Seattle to back-to-back Super Bowls, winning one of them.
Heads up. And the first world championship in franchise history. Pete Carroll, the Seahawks are world champs.
Carroll, meantime, sent Gus Bradley and Dan Quinn, among others, into the head coaching ranks. Quinn made a Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons, and he gets credit for San Francisco head coach Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan, of course, owes his father a great deal, so easy case can be made he belongs with him, but he was Quinn's OC for 2 years before landing the 49ers job.
You ready?
You ready? Let's go, dude. Don't injure me, man. You can me up after. Go, baby.
Didn't take long for Shanahan to show the apple doesn't fall far from the family tree in his case. He took San Francisco back to the Super Bowl in his 3rd year on the job.
And what a moment for the Shanahan family. San Francisco going to the Super Bowl with a big win tonight over Green Bay.
3 of Shanahan's assistants have already been hired as head coaches as well. Robert Saleh, who went to the Jets, DeMeco Ryans, hired by Houston, and Mike McDaniel, another one of the recent 30-somethings to land the top job.
Despite all that, there was a lot of adversity over the course of this entire season, but not one person in here flinched all year.
Hello?
Yellow, is anyone alive? It was a swag, you're misinterpreting it.
I love the way y'all fought every single week, no matter how bad it got, no matter how hard it got, everybody kept freaking fighting.
Talk about determination, pure grit. Everybody fights to their last play. That's what it's about, man. And we punched our ticket.
Back to the Walsh offshoots now. George Seifert, he took over for Walsh in San Francisco when he retired. Seifert led the 49ers from 1989 to 1996. When he resigned, at the time, he had the 2nd highest win percentage in NFL history, and among head coaches with 100-plus career wins, he holds the NFL's 7th highest winning percentage all time. The 49ers also won 2 more Super Bowl titles under Seifert's guidance.
Thank you to a man that came in a situation that wasn't exactly easy, and he is your coach.
I want you to know that they said three-peat. They've got the heat on you already.
Well said. They want to go for another one, that's fine with me.
Seifert had one first-generation assistant land a head coaching job, Ray Rhodes, and he was significant. He coached in Philadelphia from 1995 to 1998. His OC from 95 to 97, John Gruden. Gruden's planetary body bore 4 eventual head coaches. One of them, Mike Tomlin, was Gruden's DB coach in Tampa Bay.
You gotta love this if you're a competitor, don't you? Let's go do the damn job.
Tomlin did 1 year in Minnesota as defensive coordinator before taking over in Pittsburgh. From 2007 to 2023, the Steelers never had a single losing record under Tomlin's guidance.
Hey, coaches, let's not sit on our hands, man. Let's go get it.
Tomlin took Pittsburgh to 2 Super Bowls so far, winning it all in 2008.
And in only his 2nd year, Mike Tomlin has won the Super Bowl.
That's a bath any coach wants to take.
Tomlin's offensive coordinator, Bruce Arians, took over as head coach in Arizona and eventually in Tampa Bay, winning a Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
Yeah! Yeah!
We're the champions of the world.
Unbelievable.
Let's make our way back to the Walsh Moon now. The 4th member of the 49ers' Big Four, Mike Holmgren, also notable in his own right. Joe Montana won back-to-back MVP awards with Holmgren as his OC, and he also helped QB Steve Young grow to prominence.
Mike, for me, was perfect. I mean, it was a great relationship, someone that pushed me starting in college, and then amazingly, come back around and catch him as a pro. It's like, how good can it get?
Holmgren's work with Young and Montana was noticed. He landed the head job with the Green Bay Packers. He stayed with them from 1992 to 1998, where he went on to mold another Gold Jacket quarterback. He and Brett Favre leading the Packers to a title for Title Town.
I know without
a hint of doubt that I would not be here if it were not for him.
This trophy was named after Vince Lombardi. You play in Green Bay. As important as it is to any other team and any other player, it means more to us.
Holmgren had a successful run in Seattle after he left Green Bay from 1999 to 2008, guiding the Seahawks to the Super Bowl.
Seattle, you've waited 3 decades. The time is here. We're all going to the Super Bowl.
He sent 3 of his assistants on to head coaching gigs. Former quarterback Jim Zorn left Seattle for Washington's top job. Steve Mariucci was with him in Green Bay before taking over in San Francisco in 1997 for 6 seasons. He also led Detroit for a few years. And then there's Holmgren's most significant offspring, Andy Reid.
Push each other now, push each other. Remember, help each other out now, help each other out. Working like crazy today, man.
Reid's significance historically is twofold. He revolutionized the West Coast offense, which has changed the modern game. And then there's his record. No one has had as much success with 2 different teams. He has more career wins than any KC head coach, more wins than any Eagles lead man.
Hey, all the chubby guys, we gotta lose a couple pounds because we're going to Arizona.
Reid is the only head coach to lead 2 different teams to 4 conference championship games.
Oh, it's great. I'm so proud of these guys right here.
When Reid got out from under Holmgren's wings, he was hired by Philadelphia, where he stayed from 1999 to 2012. He took them to the Super Bowl in 2004.
Hey, where are we going next week? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Reid's stay in Philadelphia eventually ran its course. He parted ways with the organization after a 4-12 year, though he still left on amicable terms, landing in Kansas City in 2013. When Reid started with the Chiefs, he had Alex Smith at QB. Smith represents the evolution of Reid as a play caller.
Well, there are no quarterback issues in Kansas City because he runs Andy Reid's offense to perfection.
Instead of having Smith try and fit his offense, Reid poured over Smith's college tape and built an offense that made the most of Smith's skill set. More jet sweeps, add more zone read plays and RPOs. He resurrected the former #1 pick's career. Kansas City made the playoffs 4 of the 5 years with Smith under center, never once had a sub-500 record either.
Hey, how about those Chiefs, baby?
And then the Chiefs drafted Mahomes, the perfect QB to run Reid's ever-expanding offense.
Right side touchdown! The Chiefs have won their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years!
Reid had already been using West Coast principles in Philadelphia with Donovan McNabb. In Kansas City, though, he evolved the approach. He studied any and all offensive concepts he could find, assigned his assistants to study plays being used by offenses from college to high school. Nothing was off limits.
Look at this.
Never seen that before in my life.
I don't even know where they get that.
Reid was a pioneer when it came to incorporating the run-pass option into offense on a regular basis, and with Mahomes at the wheel, Reid has also led the way in allowing his players to draw up plays themselves. He set a new standard for coach-player relationships.
It's always fun to see what's really possible and what we could really do out there on the field. And the fact that Coach Reid is kind of always, he's open ears at least. He might not agree to everything. He's got, as he says it best, he's got 51%, so.
And then there is Reid's influence. His resume so far includes 4 assistants who left his guidance for top jobs. Brad Childress was OC for Reid in Philadelphia. He landed the Minnesota job in 2006. He eventually ceded that spot to his defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier. Matt Nagy, one of Reid's KC assistants, was head coach in Chicago for a spell. The Walrus' other first-generation protégés both won a Super Bowl. Doug Peterson, who reached the top of the mountain with the Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Let the celebration begin.
And then there's Reid's most successful former pupil, Baltimore icon John Harbaugh. He took over in 2008 and immediately went on a 5-year playoff run that peaked in 2012 when they were crowned world champs.
It wasn't pretty, but it was us.
Harbaugh so far sent Mike McDonald, David Culley, and Chuck Pagano into the head coaching ranks, all of these sub-moons growing forth from one of the most significant head coaches in league history, Bill Walsh, the man who created the West Coast offense, which revolutionized how the game would be played.
Bill would often talk about the term genius as embarrassing, and he wished it would just disappear and go away. But the truth of the matter is, he loved it. He absolutely loved it.
Walsh took over the 49ers in 1979. They won just 2 games and just 6 the next year. And then finally, in 1981, it all started to click. The 49ers made the playoffs. Dwight Clark made the catch that would launch a dynasty.
For him to say to Joe,
Dwight, we're clear. He's going to break up and break into the corner. Okay, you got it?
Throw it to Dwight high enough to where it either goes out of bounds or he can jump up and catch it.
You're ready to go to Dwight, you got it? You don't get what you want. You'll just simply throw the ball away. Not there, away it goes.
To think through that play all the way to that minor little detail, to me, you just really believe in every single thing he says.
And he throws into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown, San Francisco by Dwight Clark.
Looking back on it, that was Camelot. That was Camelot. That was the origin of a dynasty.
Walsh went on to win his first of 3 Lombardies, all won in the 1980s, the first and third against the team he coached for before he took over in San Francisco, the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was while he was in the Midwest that he developed the West Coast.
Our system of football sustained itself, and we refined it further and further each year until at some point it might even have been an art form. That's what really gave us an edge over our opposition.
In a nutshell, the West Coast offense changed the NFL game by shortening the passing game. It was about quick, precise passes that put pass catchers in space so they could do the damage with their legs rather than rely on a QB's arm for one big play.
There was never a thought, let's go for it all. Go out, get Jerry on a long one. Go 4 times to Jerry Rice, he'll catch one of them. No, it was execution. I had a game plan, Joe could execute it, and they believed in what they were doing.
Running backs had consistent routes to run as pass catchers. Receiver routes were designed to coincide with the number of steps the QB would take in his drop back, so it was all about timing, and only meticulous practice sessions could perfect it.
That's the one thing he taught to all of us, and especially the quarterback position, is perfection.
Perfection.
Perfection. I want you to be perfect.
Bang, right back into the short post.
Everything is timed. Head snaps around, throw the ball. Just so precise about what it needed to look like.
How many steps did you take? That's too much, John, right there.
He wanted it precise.
Walsh originally created the West Coast out of necessity. He was an assistant coach in Cincinnati in his early years, and the Bengals' best option at QB when the 1970 season arrived was Virgil Carter, who didn't have a strong arm, and Cincinnati didn't have a great line either, or much of a run game. So Walsh adjusted their offensive approach, and the rest is history.
The regret I have is not coaching longer, because I left the best team in football and the youngest team in football. So I could have coached a couple more years.
The man Walsh coached under in Cincinnati, one of the most significant game changers in the history of the game, and the man who sits at the center of our largest head coaching system, Paul Brown. Brown sent 4 head coaches forth, 2 of them Hall of Famers, Walsh and Weeb Eubank.
Coach Weeb Eubank is praying his offensive unit hasn't cooled off.
Eubank led the Baltimore Colts from 1954 to 1962. He won the NFL championship back-to-back years in 1958 and 59. He took over the Jets in 1963, stayed with them until 73, was behind the clipboard when New York knocked off his former team in Super Bowl III, one of the greatest upsets the game has ever seen.
The game is over. The New York Jets are the world champions. They have upset the Baltimore Colts and beat them handily here today.
Eubank served under Brown for 4 years.
Could you imagine the Miami Shulas or the New England Belichicks? Paul Brown had the Browns named after him. He was the Browns.
The game's greatest coach and the grandest guy in the world, Paul Brown. Hello.
Brown, of course, was the first ever head coach of the Cleveland Browns before he took the Bengals job. He turned Cleveland into a dynasty in the 50s, and they didn't start out as an NFL team. They played in the AAFC. They joined the big leagues in 1950. Brown and his Browns immediately won the league title.
Cleveland is overjoyed. The Browns are the champions of the world again.
Brown led Cleveland to the title game an amazing 7 of his first 8 years, winning it 3 times. But his record almost takes a back seat to what he did for the game as a whole. Brown was the first coach to use game film to scout opponents. He's the guy credited with inventing the modern face mask.
And we were playing the 49ers. Otto Graham had his face cut up. The guy hit him with an elbow when he was down right under my feet in the sideline.
Paul Brown came up with a great big plastic thing about 2 inches high, 1/2 inch thick.
He was also the first to send in plays from the sideline, which eventually evolved into his creating the first ever radial helmet, allowing him to send plays directly to his quarterback.
You felt like an idiot with the thing because it was an antenna and you would have to turn like that. So I'd have to stand outside the huddle going like this, until he came in loud and clear.
The league banned the technology for a while before bringing it back years later. Brown created taxi squads, not to mention all the creative plays he came up with. Brown's team's the first to run the draw play.
Graham gives the ball to Motley. It's the draw play.
So who did Brown owe his understanding of the game to? He isn't tied to anyone specific. Prior to coaching the Browns, he was the head coach at Ohio State and Great Lakes Navy. Prior to that, amazingly, he was the lead man of a high school team, but so good that OSU came calling. Before that, a QB at Miami of Ohio back in 1926, the decade the NFL was born.
In 1920, Halas met with the other team owners and created the National Football League.
The Roaring '20s, also where we find the godfather of NFL head coaches, Chicago's George Halas.
We had a meeting in Canton, Ohio on September 17th, 1920 to form the National Football League. And in order to join this group, you had to put up $100. I think it's worth a little more than that now.
Halas's NFL significance can't be overstated. He represents the foundation of pro football and, in turn, the foundation of NFL head coaching.
George had to sell automobiles. He sold real estate. He did everything to keep that football team going.
The NFL began in 1920 as the APFA. The Cardinals and Bears are the only 2 franchises from the original group that survived. No other executive or coach remained in the league as long as Papa Bear did, though. Halas owned the team from 1921 to 1983, was their head coach 4 times from 1920 to 1967.
If you think, who's the forefather of the National Football League and who got us all started and got us here, you think of George Halas.
Halas won a number of titles over the years, but he's also credited with a number of game-changing concepts. First, he signed Red Grange out of college, which was a huge step in legitimizing the pro game, which wasn't as popular as college at the time.
In the mid-1920s, the name Red Grange was synonymous with football in the same way that Babe Ruth was synonymous with baseball.
As a head coach, he was the first one to implement a number of approaches that Brown and every other head coach have emulated ever since.
Halas's innovations kept pro football moving forward. He was the first pro coach to hold practice sessions every day, the first to hire a full-time staff.
Halas has direct ties to 5 other men who went on to land head coaching gigs. One of the most important is defensive coordinator in 1965, Hall of Famer George Allen.
Have a lot of fun tonight. Have a lot of fun. Hit people, knock them down.
Allen left Chicago to coach the LA Rams from 1966 to 1970. He was named Coach of the Year twice.
The Rams had not had a winning season since 1958, and we needed a miracle worker, not a school teacher. And that is exactly what we got, a miracle worker of the utmost degree.
He is most famous, though, for his time in Washington and for his hatred of the Dallas Cowboys. He is one of the most colorful and brutally honest head coaches the league has ever had on its sidelines.
Great win. We beat them out their own game. You out hit them. Now we bring those damn Cowboys next.
Allen gave head coaching life to 4 guys. Mike McCormick was his assistant in Washington. He led Philadelphia in the mid-70s and then the Colts in 80 and 81. He pushed Walt Michaels up the ladder. He took over the Jets from 1977 to 82. When his tenure ended, his OC, Joe Walton, took over the job and held it until 1989. Former Cleveland frontman Bud Carson and former Eagles and Jets head coach Rich Kotite both hail from this space. Allen also tutored Bills Hall of Famer Marv Levy. He was with Allen in Washington for a couple years. Levy then went on to lead a CFL team for 5 years before returning to the NFL in 1978 as the head man in Kansas City.
Went to college with that official. I went to college with him, huh?
You blind bat! That's not interference! Throw the flag on that jerk!
Levy next landed in Buffalo, where he would lead the Bills to an unprecedented 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. No other team or head coach has ever accomplished that in league history.
It's a long, hard struggle to get there, and our players have been resilient enough to bounce back from one disappointment after another. But we put it behind us quickly. If you're going to have a chance to go back again, you have to put disappointments behind you, not dwell on them.
Bills, of course, didn't win any of those Super Bowls. Levy is only responsible for one NFL head coach, Bobby Ross. He was in San Diego from 1992 to 1996 and Detroit from 1997 to 2000. But Bolt fans will always remember Ross for being the first head coach to take San Diego to the Super Bowl. The other significant Allen assistant to move upward and onward, Ted Marchibroda. Marchibroda, former head coach of the Colts and Ravens, was Allen's OC when he was with the Rams. From Marchibroda to Vince Tobin, he called the shots in Arizona from 96 to 2000. From Tobin, you get to Dave McGinnis and Jim Fossil. McGinnis took over the Cardinals full-time from 2001 to 2003. Fossil left for the Giants job in 97, held it down till 2003. While he was in New York, he had a guy named John Fox on his staff. Fox made the Super Bowl twice with Carolina and Denver.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a great tribute to these players, this staff. I couldn't be more proud of a group of men ever in my life.
Fox sent forth 3 of his assistants, Mike McCoy, Adam Gase, and Jack Del Rio, who led the Jaguars from 2003 to 2011 and the Raiders from 2015 to 2017.
Let's go! Smell blood in the water. Let's go. Have some fun. Make plays.
Halas also gets a lot of credit for really getting the passing game in the NFL going, which he pushed forward with the help of another eventual NFL head coach, Clark Shaughnessy. Shaughnessy had taken over a 1-win Stanford team and won the Rose Bowl in his first year. Halas took notice and brought Shaughnessy in ahead of their 1940 championship game with Washington. The two developed the T formation, which in simple terms allowed the QB's arm to play a much bigger role in the game. Worked pretty well, led the Bears to putting up 73 points, Chicago shutting out Washington in the most lopsided championship game in history.
Those sports writers came in the dressing room after the game. They came over to me and they said, "What do you think the score would have been if Malone had helped that pass down there when y'all first drove down the field?" And I told them it had been 73-7.
Halas represents Shaughnessy's entry point to the pro game, so we're placing his moon in the Halas universe, even though he didn't depart directly from Halas airspace. He ended up as a head coach of the LA Rams before returning to Halas's orbit as an assistant. When he left the Rams, he handed off to Joe Stidehar, who was their coach in 1950. Shaughnessy's passing game influence alive and well in Stidehar's approach, as he was behind the wheel when Norm Van Brocklin set the record for passing yards in a game that still stands today, despite the likes of Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady, among others, having come and gone.
Norm Van Brocklin drops back, throws an arching pass upfield. Rangy Tom Fears gathers it in on the dead run and races all the way to score for Los Angeles. A 72-yard touchdown play.
Van Brocklin would also go on to be a lead man when his playing days were over. He was the big man for 13 years, split between Atlanta and Minnesota. He was the Vikings' first ever head coach.
He taught me professional football. He gave me the grounding in football that few people had.
Van Brocklin went from playing directly to head coaching, his head coach's last 3 years playing in Philadelphia, Lawrence Buck Shaw, the two men leading the Eagles to an NFL title.
The world champions defeat the Green Bay Packers 17-13, and the Eagles are carrying Buck Shaw off the field.
Shaw, by the way, the San Francisco 49ers' first ever head coach, starting in the AAFC. Two of Van Brocklin's assistants received promotions. Harry Gilmer, who was in Detroit for a couple years, he handed off to Joe Schmidt with the Lions from 1967 to 1972. And that's where Chuck Knox comes from. Knox had a very successful 22-year career. 1973 to 1994 was with the Rams, Bills, and Seahawks.
You'll be the best and you got to pay a little price. If you want it bad enough, you got to do a little extra things to get it.
4 of his assistants over the years moving up the coaching ladder, the most notable Hall of Famer Dick Vermeil. He was top boss in Philadelphia from 1976 to 1982, took the Eagles to the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you where you're going. You're going to the Super Bowl. No, he's going to the Super Bowl is where he's going.
Vermeil took 15 years off serving as a TV analyst, then returned in 1997, taking over in St. Louis and winning it all with the Rams and their greatest show on turf.
So it all comes down to this. 6 seconds to play.
All right, guys. Last play of the game.
McNair drops. Throws right side for Dyson. He dives for the end zone.
Didn't make it. Didn't make it. That's it. We won it.
He rounded out his head coaching time with a stint with the Chiefs. Kansas City's resume of head coaches as impressive as any franchise's. Hall of Famer Hank Stram began his pro football coaching career there, and his tenure led to Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Cowher, and Mike McCarthy, among others. Stram was Kansas City's first ever head coach. They started out as the Dallas Texans in the AFL in 1960.
The big rush is on, the kick is up, the kick is good. Dallas is the champions. They had to go into the second overtime period to win it.
Stram was a college assistant before being hired by the expansion team, never the head coach either. He found his way to the Hall of Fame by winning 3 AFL titles and led the Chiefs to victory in Super Bowl IV.
Just keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys.
That quote, now a rally call for current Kansas City players.
Matriculating the ball down the field, baby.
Stram's legendary play call from Super Bowl IV, even more revered throughout Missouri.
65 toss power trap. Look for 65 toss power trap. What does it look like? Hey, look for a 65 toss power trap. See what it looks like. Gloucester, tell him 65 toss power trap. Get in there for 65 toss power trap.
65 toss power trap, a fake toss sweep that ended up as an inside handoff to Mike Garrett, who ended up in the end zone.
Running play coming to Garrett on a trap. Touchdown! I told you that baby was there. Yes, sir, boys. It was there, wasn't it?
Stram was one of the most innovative head coaches the modern game has ever seen. He was the first pro coach to use a 2 tight end formation, the first to design a moving pocket to help his quarterback, Len Dawson, find passing lanes easier.
All right, this is our playbook. It must be studied, understood, and then executed properly on the field.
Stram laid the foundation of mini camps by bringing in players monthly. He's loosely credited with introducing the league and its players to Gatorade of all things. He was close to the University of Florida head coach who brought it to fruition there.
Uh-oh, give it to him, give it to him, give it. Good timing, good timing. Oh, and he dropped the ball.
Stram never employed an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, but after leaving Kansas City, he coached the Saints for 2 years. His wide receiver coach, Sam Ratigliano, went on to lead the Browns from 1978 to 1984. His defensive coordinator, Marty Schottenheimer.
Light the ignition, man. Light the ignition. Let's get this rocket ship going up now.
He was the lead man in Cleveland from 1985 to 88. The Chiefs from 89 to 98. He spent 1 year in Washington before closing out his career in San Diego from 2002 to 2006.
We're gonna keep pounding and wear them down. Grind them in the damn dirt.
Power football. That's Marty ball. You run it, then run it, and then run it again. And then, okay, we can throw a pass. But after that pass, let's run it, and then run it, and run it again. That's Marty ball, to wear you down.
Stay after them, wear them down. Break them, break them.
As of 2024, Schottenheimer owns the dubious head coach record for most wins without winning a Super Bowl. He won an even 200 regular season games. Schottenheimer's playoff record wasn't sparkling, but the postseason losses he took were not the average variety either. In Cleveland, he was on the wrong side of the drive in 1986.
20-13 Browns. The look, the throw, touchdown!
John Elway has just thrown the touchdown to Mark Jackson, 98.5-yard drive.
A year later, in 1987, it was the Ernest Biner goal line fumble.
Biner inside the 5 to the 4 to the 3 to the 2. He fumbles the football and the Broncos have it. Denver has it at the 2-yard line. He was so close to getting in for a touchdown.
Oh, my goodness.
Doesn't seem fair.
Perhaps it just wasn't meant to be.
1995, he and the Chiefs lose to the Colts 10-7, his kicker Lynn Elliott missing 3 field goal attempts, and then with the Chargers there was that 2006 loss to New England, marked by a should-have-been game-sealing INT by Marlon McCree, who proceeded to fumble the ball back to Tom Brady and the Patriots late in the game.
It is bobbled and picked off! Marlon McCree! The Chargers have the ball back!
Oh, I think McCree fumbled it.
Oh, New England! New England's got it back at the 32. McCree dropped it as he was hit.
Schottenheimer sent 4 of his assistants forth: Gunther Cunningham, Cam Cameron, Lindy Infante, and his most prized pupil, Bill Cowher.
Let's go! Let's go! Just go! Just go, rush! Let's rush! Rush! That's what I'm talking about. And he's going, and the spit is flying, and it was kind of one of those things that you wish you had that windshield wiper. You can just kind of.
Cowher, a Hall of Famer, another Super Bowl winner, his 2005 Pittsburgh squad reaching the top of the mountain under his watch. Cowher also gave rise to 4 assistants: Dom Capers, Mike Malarkey, who then saw his OC Ken Wisenhunt move up, who begat Todd Haley. Cowher can claim Chan Gailey, who claims Dave Campo, and finally Jim Haslett, his former offensive coordinator. Haslett coached the Saints from 2000 to 2005, Mike McCarthy his OC from 2000 to 2004. He made a 1-year pit stop in San Francisco before landing the top job in Green Bay.
It's going to hop, on a hop, let's go! Move it, move it, move it!
McCarthy won a Super Bowl with the Packers with Aaron Rodgers doing his quarterbacking.
The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl.
Yes, we did it, baby! We did it!
McCarthy went from one iconic franchise to another, leaving Green Bay and landing in Dallas.
Special teams, way to block those punts because Jerry loves that shit.
McCarthy is currently the only coach from Stram's system active as of 2024. That says something, being the other key head coaching line born that era has died off. Sid Gilman's impact on how the game is played, though, is alive and well, as he's considered the godfather of the most exciting play in football. Gilman started his NFL career with the Rams in 1955. He was a college coach prior. He led LA to the championship game in his first year.
Professional football's finest moment is at hand. It's the World Championship between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns.
Gilman jumped from the NFL to the AFL in 1960, taking over the Chargers. They won the AFL championship in '63.
Well, Sid was the ultimate taskmaster. He was disciplined and tough, and he had to be mean. You know, all the qualities that you'd love to see in a prison warden.
Out of bounds, you stupid guy!
But Gilman is in the Hall of Fame as much for what he did to the NFL passing game as he is for his record. He was not a fan of the 3 yards and a cloud of dust run games most teams relied on, or of the short, simple passing games being used by, quote, pass-happier teams. So it was bombs away, his quarterbacks stretching the field on a regular basis, and in turn, providing more get-out-of-your-seat moments for fans.
The football field is 53 1/3 yards wide, and it's 100 yards long. And we're going to use every inch of that field. There's nothing more beautiful, though.
Cato's long bomb is taken by Lance Allworth for a big 52-yard gain.
I have that pass timed, take it on a dead run, and take it all the way. Nothing prettier in the game of football.
7 of Gilman's assistants were hired as head coach after spending time with him. He gets credit for Bum Phillips, a Houston and New Orleans icon. Phillips was not a shy leader. He's best known for wearing jeans, boots, and his iconic cowboy hat on the sidelines of games.
We might as well run it. Yep. Let's run the Bummerooski. Huh? Run the Bummerooski.
You'd huddle everybody up and he'd say, all right, every man get a man. Every good man get 2. And we would look at each other and he goes, well, Ready, break.
You never saw him wear it at home, though, or in any stadium with a dome. He said his mom taught him not to wear a hat inside. Phillips' nickname Bum made him impossible to forget, but so did his quotes.
We'll just get after Miami tomorrow like this old pony got after that steer. We'll have a heck of a good ball game.
I said before the game we were short on manpower, but we were long on guts, and I'm damn sure right.
We've got 30 minutes to play and a lifetime to remember it. Do everything that's expected of you, and then what 4 little words? A little bit more. It's our sign, huh? It ain't over till the fat man spits.
What a horse thing.
They say the harder we played, the behinder we got. We've done it all year long. We hadn't let go of that rope. And we're not going to start right now. Let's go get this.
The other notable head coach to emerge from Gilman's star, Al Davis, who was an assistant for Gilman's Chargers before he took over the Raiders job.
Just win, baby.
Davis only coached the Silver and Black for 3 years before focusing on being the team's owner. Davis, though, loved Gilman's vertical approach, the Raiders over the decades being dedicated to fast receivers with big splash potential.
The adage that goes around in professional football, and I hear everyone say it, take what they give you. That all sounds good to everybody, but I always went the other way. We're going to take what we want.
When Davis moved to the front office, he left the keys for John Rauch. Rauch's linebacker coach in '67 and '68, the one and only John Madden.
Okay, come on, defense! The last thing I'd say when I was coaching the Raiders before we went out on the field is, don't worry about the horse being blind, just load the wagon. You don't worry about anything else. You just go whip the other team.
You could legitimately make an argument that John Madden has made a greater impact on the NFL game than any coach ever has if you account for everything he's done on so many different fronts.
So I've probably in my lifetime broken through more paper than anyone in the world record for that. Like I was saying, light beer tastes great.
He was the perfect coach for 1970s Al Davis Raiders football. Young, confident, and most importantly, unapologetic.
What the hell are you trying to do? Never call one on them?
Madden turned the Raiders into a powerhouse, winning the Super Bowl in 1976.
John, how's it feel?
Yeah? Great. Waited a long time
Feels
for
like it's 25.
John was not the smallest coach in the league. John's kind of a big guy, and carrying him off the field was kind of a task, even for our biggest guys.
There it is. There's the gun sounding the end of the game. John Madden goes on the shoulders of his players.
The Raiders of that era are a great what-if since their rise coincided with the Steelers dynasty. Madden's impact on the NFL, though, didn't end when he retired from coaching.
This is a turducken right here. This thing here is a deboned duck stuffed in a deboned chicken, stuffed in a deboned turkey.
Madden took his love of the game and love of coaching and spread it to fans through TV screens across the country, elevating the game's popularity by making it easier to follow.
Boom, we cross him. The left goes to the right goes to the left. This guy crosses here, he crosses here. They have no idea where we are, who we are, where we're coming from, or who we're throwing to.
Very interesting.
And then came the video game, Madden Football, not only world famous, but one of the most educational sports games on the market, as both players and head coaches have acknowledged learning playbook concepts as kids playing the game.
And when you clicked Ask Madden, he'd be like, hey, give this one a try. And when you would call that play, Madden would say, I don't know what he's thinking.
The Raider head coach lineage was very simple in the early years, from Davis to Rauch to Madden. And when Madden left for the broadcast booth, his wide receiver coach, another future Hall of Famer, Tom Flores, took over. Flores was Oakland's first ever QB back in 1960, made him the first ever Hispanic starting quarterback in the league. Then he added being the first ever Hispanic head coach in NFL history, culminating with him being the first ever Latino to win a Super Bowl in 1980, which he did with Jim Plunkett at quarterback.
We were the best team. We deserve to be world champions. Baby, I'm proud of you.
The pair repeated the feat, too, beating Washington in 1983. The losing coach in that game, Hall of Famer Joe Gibbs.
Hey, we ain't made a play yet. We're going to start making them in a minute now. We'll start making them. Everybody keep your head up.
Gibbs may have lost to the Raiders in '83, but he won it the other 3 times he coached in it. The year before, in fact, 1982, Washington beating Don Shula's Dolphins behind Joe Theismann.
For the first time since 1942, the Washington Redskins have an NFL championship.
Gibbs and company were back on top in 1987, Doug Williams as quarterback.
There's no other fans in the world that would come out on a day like this except in Washington, D.C. Each one of you has a small piece of this trophy today.
And finally, in 1991, with Mark Rippon behind center, Gibbs, the only head coach to win 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
You win 3 Super Bowls, 3 different quarterbacks. Without a doubt, best head coach of all time.
From 1982 to 1991, Washington was NFL elite, but the only constant was Gibbs, so Washington never got the dynasty label, but their record and success during that time warrants it.
Joe Gibbs won 10 or more games in 8 of 9 seasons. He won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
Proud of you, man. Proud of you.
Not a flashy guy. He never gave great quotes at the press conference. All he did was win.
Gibbs is also credited with altering the 2 tight end approach. He's the inventor of the H-back, if you will, which allowed for more offensive flexibility.
What he did was take out 1 running back and insert a second tight end.
Hey, win with style, man. Win with style.
So, who did Gibbs develop his offensive innovator talents under? Former St. Louis and San Diego head coach, Hall of Famer Don Coryell, who came to the NFL game after a long run with San Diego State. Coryell started off in St. Louis in 1973. He turned the Cardinals around, winning 10-plus games 3 years in a row.
When he came to the Cardinals in '73 from San Diego State, he brought with him a passing game that the league had not seen before. And Don Coryell single-handedly opened up the National Football League.
Coryell is famous for his time in San Diego, though, where he installed the Air Coryell offense.
He engineered Air Coryell, an offense that took the NFL by storm, leading the league in passing yardage 7 times in a 9-year span. To say his influence is not in the game today would mean that, frankly, you're wearing blinders.
From 1978 to 1982, there wasn't a more exciting team to watch than the Dan Fouts, Kellen Winslow, Justin Jefferson, Charlie Joyner San Diego Chargers.
Coryell's contribution to pro football is profound. It was the most exciting passing offense the league had seen. The feeling that we had taking the field was that we were unstoppable.
You threw on 1st down, you threw on 2nd down, you threw on 3rd down. And if you were even close to getting it on 4th down, you threw on 4th down.
As much as Coryell football was about stepping on the pass pedal as hard as possible, it was also about the unique formations he came up with, specifically involving Winslow, the tight end. No team had ever utilized the position as a wide receiver like Coryell did.
They'll throw. Winslow. There he is, and it is a touchdown to Winslow. Great catch by the young tight end. His 2nd touchdown of the game.
Coryell represents one of those asteroid fields we mentioned. Hall of Famer head coach Bud Grant represents the other. He coached in the CFL prior to coaching in Minnesota. Grant, a Vikings legend for his run that lasted from 1967 to 1985, not including 1984.
He taught us that winning was a habit. We had the spirit or the esprit de corps or the togetherness before Bud came, but he put it all together and made us a winning football team.
Grant won 4 NFC titles, 1969, 1973, 1974, and 76.
And the goalposts go down.
Hold it, Mike. I believe that Grant almost smiled.
Almost.
Like Levy, he lost all 4 Super Bowls. Grant also opened the door for quarterbacks to use their legs more often, which the modern game is almost completely built around. His QB, Fran Tarkenton, who is the godfather of the scrambler.
I scrambled, which was a terrible thing for a quarterback to do. How could you not stay in the pocket all the time? Because that's the way a quarterback was supposed to be. And all these things were hard for a lot of people to adjust to, and they couldn't see how this freak could come and play. So I've somehow defied some of those criticisms, and now people are finally saying that, well, maybe we were wrong.
Grant, though, had to embrace the off-script approach so Tarkenton could have the freedom he needed. He doesn't often get the credit he deserves for laying the seeds for today's running QBs.
Tarkenton back. Running, run it, chasing. Tarkenton throws, toss to Pullman, and he got it.
Grant's 70s Vikings were part of a landscape as difficult as any that a decade has produced in NFL history. We just touched on Madden's Raiders dealing with the same problem. They were playing the Tom Landry Cowboys, the Chuck Noll Steelers, the Don Shula Dolphins. It was as if 5 dynasties had collided in a 10-year window.
To get out on the field and jump up and down and use up all your emotion in the locker room and with speeches and whatnot, you can get to the opening quarter and you've used up half of your emotion already, and in the games you still got the whole game to play.
This is the Vince Lombardi Trophy for the winner of the Super Bowl.
A lot of people think motivation comes from the mouth, and it doesn't. Motivation comes from helping somebody get the job done.
Noll, the coach who the 70s called king in the end, Steelers winning 4 Super Bowls from 1974 to 1979.
This well could be the best football team in history right now. Whatever's right.
Noll was one of the most stoic head coaches the game has ever seen. Him and Landry both have the belief that fiery speeches, high fives, and the like were unnecessary when it came to their players executing on the field.
He had this aura about him. You know, they used to call him the Emperor. Well, you kind of felt like you were in the presence of football royalty.
The Steel Curtain nickname Pittsburgh took on during the decade, fitting their head coach as much as their defense.
Yo, ref, you see that? What the f*** is wrong with you, White?
Many of the classic 70s battles Noll and his Steelers found themselves in, against Shula's Dolphins, of course, and all those face-offs were master versus apprentice showdowns, as Noll was Shula's defensive coordinator when Shula was leading the Colts in the late 60s. Shula was the one who recommended him for the job even. Noll is one of 6 Shula proteges who advanced upward. None of the others Hall of Fame caliber, none led to any either.
You have to win by blocking well and tackling well, out-hitting your opponents. And it takes special kinds of people to do that. And those special kinds of people are the ones we're looking for. And I think we have those kinds of people.
Shula's run in Baltimore ran from '63 to 1969. He got them to Super Bowl III with Noll on his staff.
Shula said, if we lose this game, every great thing we've done is out the window. The whole season is ruined if we get beat by the AFL underdog.
Noll departed for Pittsburgh the next year. Shula stayed on one more year before he was poached by the Dolphins. They went from a 3-10-1 team in 1969 to a 10-4 team the next year.
It was a party team. And he referred to it when he got here. You guys don't know how to win. And I'm determined that we are going to teach you how to win.
And then came a 3-year run like no other. 71, 72, 73, 3 straight trips to the Super Bowl, won 2 of them, the 72 season, the vaunted only perfect season the modern game has ever seen.
He's a pusher. He's a guy that picks a goal.
Get in there, let's go!
He looks at you and figures how far he can push you.
Look at him, you can't come up unless he blocks!
And he takes you right to that breaking point.
Get set, what the hell are you doing?
And sometimes a little beyond it.
Soccer!
As a result, we went undefeated.
Shula coached Miami from 1970 to 1995. What stood out after he was done was his adaptability. One year, they were a running team. The next, it was defense. Another, it was an aerial attack built around Dan Marino.
Most touchdown passes, 48. Most yards gained, 5,084. Most passes completed, 362. Most 300-yard games with 9. Most 400-yard games with 4. Those are all NFL records for young Dan Marino.
Shula rode his coaching flexibility to the most wins of any head coach in NFL history.
I've only had 2 rides in my life as a coach. One was after the Super Bowl, 17-0, and the other one was being carried off the field in Philadelphia after breaking Coach Hallis's record. Those are the 2 rides that I'm always going to remember.
Shula and Noll both hail from the Jimmy Conzelman system. Shula served as defensive coordinator in Detroit before taking the Colts job. George Wilson led the Lions from 57 to 64. He was a descendant of former Detroit and Pittsburgh head coach Buddy Parker, who was an assistant of Conzelman, who coached the Chicago Cardinals in the 1940s. Conzelman also played and coached against Hallis in the 1920s. Both were player head coaches, as was Green Bay's Hall of Famer and stadium namesake, Curly Lambeau.
Curly Lambeau, in the very infancy of the league, got together with a couple of dreamers and came up with this idea of playing professional football. And he knew that where he came from, Green Bay, Wisconsin, he could gather a team with the backing of a meat company.
Lambeau founded the Packers in 1919. They joined the NFL in 1921. Lambeau coached them until 1949. He isn't just the foundation of Green Bay football. He and Halas, the Bears and Packers, are the foundation of the NFL.
Curly Lambeau went down to Canton and bought the franchise for $50. Where would you ever suspected that a town of 45,000 would get a franchise and compete against the big cities in the National Football League?
Lambeau turned the Packers into their first real dynasty in league history, winning the league title 3 times in a row, a feat that as of 2023 had only happened twice.
Lambeau really opened up his offense and made the passing game more of a part of it.
At the end of his career, Lambeau coached the Chicago Cardinals for 2 years, then Washington for 2 seasons before retiring. His name, of course, synonymous with Packers football, a distinction he shares with Mr. Vince Lombardi.
Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing.
What the hell's going on out here?
Lombardi isn't a descendant of Lambeau's, though. Only one of Curly's assistants ever landed a head coaching job. The Packers and Cowboys owing thanks to the New York Giants for the greatest 2 head coaches their franchises have ever enjoyed. This is another system that sprung up in the early years. It started with Giants Hall of Famer head coach Steve Owen. He was their head guy from 1930 to 1953. He turned things over to Jim Lee Howell, one of his players who lasted for 7 years. Howell had Lombardi running his offense, Tom Landry running his defense. No NFL head coach has ever had a coordinator duo on that level.
Tom Landry coached in the defense, had Vince Lombardi coaching the offense. How in the world could they come up with something like that?
This time it's intercepted by Landry, and Tommy takes off. Nice going, Tom.
Landry played for both Owen and Howell before joining the coaching ranks. He went on to lead the Cowboys from their first season in the league in 1960 to 1988. From 1965 to 1985, Dallas never had a losing record, and from 1966 to 1983, the Cowboys only missed the playoffs once.
If you're concentrating, you're not smiling a whole lot. I enjoy smiling, but I don't enjoy it on the sideline. I'm all business.
Landry led the Cowboys to 5 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them.
What do you think, Coach?
I think it's pretty nice.
Congratulations. I'm really happy.
I don't think he expected the players to pick him up. That was one of the high points. They thought that much of him.
That might have made me happier than winning the game. To see a big, huge smile.
All of us were so happy for Coach Landry because we knew where this man had been and how he had stood up for us.
His fedora, legendary. His imprint on NFL defenses, game-changing. In broad terms, he's the godfather of the 4-3 defense.
Everything in defense and offense is evolution.
The concept of placing 3 linebackers behind 4 down linemen is now considered a base defense. But prior to Landry's configuration, teams tended to employ 1 to 2 linebackers at best at the second level. The 4-3 put defenders in a position to dictate terms rather than just react to what offenses were doing to them.
Fumbles the football. The Cowboys recover it.
Very tough to go against that Dallas flex defense.
And it was a combination of 2 defensive linemen tight to the line of scrimmage with 2 defensive linemen off the line of scrimmage.
We just try to offset some of our linemen to give us in a better position to control the types of blocking that they use today.
Landry also gets credit for normalizing the shotgun formation. He didn't invent it by any means, but Dallas's 1975 Roger Staubach-led offense was the first to employ it on a regular basis.
The thing that proves Tom Landry is a genius is that in the mid-70s, he comes up with the offense of the 21st century. Now, some teams in the NFL use a shotgun more than 50% of the time.
Landry's long run produced plenty of first-generation head coaches. Dick Nolan I, he left Landry's wings in 1968 for San Francisco, stayed there through 1975. He turned the 49ers into a contender, too. San Francisco and Dallas faced each other 3 straight years in the playoffs from 1970 to 72, the teacher getting the best of his pupil each time.
Well, it feels, you can't imagine how it feels, because you never suffered with us like we suffered, in those losses in the last 4 years. It's a great reward for these fellows who work so hard to get there.
Landry saw a total of 5 of his understudies move up. John Malkovich got a job with Kansas City in the early 80s. Gene Stallings took over the Cardinals, but it's the other 2 of his 70s assistants that had the most success post-Dallas. Dan Reeves was an offensive assistant of his from 1970 to 1980, and then it was off to Denver.
I'm still learning. I'm still growing as a coach. I think you'll constantly continue to do that. It's just like I talked to John about growing as a quarterback and learning each day as a quarterback. I think you continue to do that as a head coach.
Reeves ran the show in Denver from 1981 to 1992, took the Broncos to 3 Super Bowls.
Okay, man, games like this won by great plays, by great individuals. We got a bunch of them on this team. Let's make sure we're going hard to get them, all right?
Reeves, another head coaching great who just couldn't get over the final hump. After his time in Denver, he spent a few years in New York with the Giants, followed that with a 7-year run with the Falcons, who he took to the Super Bowl as well.
Guys, let's lay it on line. Next play is the biggest play of the game. Let's get it done.
2 Reeves men rose up in the ranks. Wade Phillips took over the Broncos when Reeves left in 1993. He also ended up coaching the Bills and the Cowboys, and he's the guy that opened the door for Jason Garrett's time in Dallas. And finally, there's Mike Shanahan, a Reeves offensive assistant until he fired him.
All right, let's go. Let's crank it up. World Championship.
Yeah, Mike Shanahan got his head coaching gig with the Raiders after being fired by Reeves for insubordination. Reeves felt like Shanahan was driving a wedge between him and quarterback John Elway. Making it crazier, Shanahan eventually went back to Denver, leading the Broncos where Reeves couldn't. He coached Denver to back-to-back Super Bowl titles, the second coming against Reeves.
Never been more happy or more proud of a bunch of men in my life. And you did something that most people never get a chance to do in a lifetime, and that's win 2 Super Bowls. Congratulations to everybody in here. Now, off-season starts tomorrow because we're going.
Shanahan also did 4 years in Washington before retiring. Shanahan's mark on the modern game can be found in many of the young coaches you see today. He's seen all sorts of his assistants land head coaching jobs eventually, but only Art Shell and Gary Kubiak are first generation, and Shell spent more time under Flores' guidance, so Kubiak is his only true head coaching offspring. Kubiak started out in Houston, also eventually going back to the Broncos, who he won a Super Bowl with.
The first in the history of the game to win a Super Bowl was a head coach with the same team he played for. That's you.
Back to Landry's final offshoot, Chicago's beloved Mike Ditka.
All you gotta do is want it as much as we know we want it. We want it that much.
Ditka was a Landry assistant from 1973 to 1981. He played tight end for Dallas prior to that. He took over the Bears in 1982. Didn't take him long to put them on the map. Ditka, one of the most boisterous lead men in NFL history.
See that? That's your IQ, buddy. 0.
All the turnovers.
No, I'd rather talk to him.
Ditka's style epitomized by attitude and fire. He was never afraid to speak his mind and relished turning the opposition into enemies.
Man, this is what it's all about. I mean, people are getting snot knocked out of them out there. That's a good football game, boy.
His personality and passion, the perfect fit for the city of Chicago, who saw Ditka turn the '85 Bears into one of the greatest Super Bowl champions the league has ever seen.
First and goal from the 1-yard line. Hand off to the French.
That Bears team, fueled by a historically great defense known as the 46 defense. It was most effective against 2-back, 2-wide receiver sets that were common in the 80s.
You could see certain games where someone couldn't pick up blitzes, up on that 46. It's like 1, 2, 3, boom, just going down.
The formation placed 8 men in the box with 6 on the line of scrimmage. The name 46 didn't have anything to do with the formation the way 3-4 does. It was coined by defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan because safety Doug Plank's role was vital to it working, and he wore the number 46. Ryan himself was quite the character too, which would be highlighted when he took over the top job in Philadelphia. He only lasted 5 years there, but boy did he make it entertaining.
Hey, 55. Who you think's got this?
They play like pussycats, I know.
What about your team?
We don't play like pussycats.
Ryan also coached the Cardinals, but no head coaching spawn to speak of. Remember, his head coach son, Rex, served under Brian Billick, though one is free to move sons to their coaches' orbits if they choose. But before we move on to our final system, back to Lombardi. He left his offensive coordinator job with the Giants after the 1958 season, transformed Green Bay into one of the greatest dynasties in league history.
You gotta remember something, Vince worked so hard to get where he got. Failure could not be an option because he always believed in his heart he'd never get another chance.
Tell you how proud we are to have you as part of the Packers, just as you should be proud to be here to be a part of this team.
Lombardi's level of detail was on another level, and his expectation that every player on the team should master those details was too.
When he walked into the meeting, he looked us right in the eye. He said, "Gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection." He said, "I'm not remotely interested in being just good."
Lombardi's players bought into it all. The loyalty and respect they had for him was father-like in most cases.
I jumped off sides one time in a scrimmage, and he got in my face and he said, "Mister, the concentration period of a college student is 5 minutes, high school is 3 minutes, kindergarten is 30 seconds. You don't even have that? So where's that put you?"
The NFL as a whole owes a great deal to Lombardi and his Packers. Football had established itself as a major sport, but it still paled in comparison to Major League Baseball. Lombardi's General Patton-like persona, along with Green Bay's success, allowed the league to make serious headway toward becoming the nation's new national pastime.
I want you to be proud of your profession. It's a great profession. You be proud of this game, and you can do a great deal for football today. Great deal for all the players in the league and everything else. Go out there and play this ball game like I know you can play it. Let's go!
And no NFL head coach has ever had as successful a stretch as Lombardi did from 1960 to 1967, the Packers making the title game or Super Bowl 6 of those 8 years, coming out on top 5 times.
Sar begins the count, takes the snap, he's got the quarterback taking, he's into the touchdown, and the Green Bay Packers are going to be NFL champions for the 3rd straight year.
All of this is why Lombardi was, and still is in many circles, regarded as the greatest head coach in NFL history. Paul Brown certainly was in the conversation, as is a gent we're about to hit. But Lombardi's .738 winning percentage, 3rd highest of any NFL head coach ever, his postseason winning percentage of #1 all-time, and all the hardware, he was the head coaching GOAT. And then the New England Patriots, of all teams, hired Chuck Fairbanks to be their head coach in 1973. He was coaching in Oklahoma before that.
With new head coach Chuck Fairbanks up front, the New England Patriots began their season of 73 with many questions yet to be answered.
Chuck Fairbanks, the great-grandfather of the modern head coaching GOAT at the very least, Fairbanks guided the Patriots from 1973 to 1978. 3 of his guys moved onward, one of them Ray Perkins as wide receiver coach, who the Giants hired. Perkins held the job from 1979 to 82, his defensive coordinator in 81 and 82, the man who took over the job in New York, Bill Parcells.
You know, you're never going to remember how much money you made playing this game. You might have some idea. You're going to remember what you did and what you achieved.
Parcells ended up being top boss for 4 teams over his career. His journey began in 1983 with the G-Men, running through the 1990 season. He's another lead man who was not shy about being the lead in front of the camera.
Tell that undisciplined center we got to get his head out of his ass. Let's get this operation moving. Shut up. Time out.
Parcells wasn't just a personality, though. He was a defensive mastermind who played a big role in maximizing Lawrence Taylor's talents.
Bill Parcells will always be my guy. You know, no matter, what happens, #1 on my list is always going to be Bill Parcells. He just rode me every day, every day, every day.
Some of these guys got to get their head out of their ass around here. Every once in a while, we get into it a little bit, but he's my boy. That's the way it is.
Parcells led New York to 2 Super Bowl titles in his 8 seasons there.
This, without question, is one of the greatest victories I've ever had as a coach.
After a short retirement, he took over in New England, taking the Patriots all the way to the Super Bowl.
What did you tell the guys in the locker room?
I told them, don't worry about winning the Super Bowl, just worry about beating the Green Bay Packers. Bro.
Great, Coach. Thanks a lot. Best of luck to you.
After a falling out with Patriots owner Robert Kraft over control, he took over the Jets from 1997 to 1999 and spent 2000 as their GM.
These guys here, I'm telling you, this is hard. We're doing a little better, but it's hard.
Parcells retired for 2 seasons, then unretired again for a 4-year stint in Dallas.
One more time. It's going to be, just try, and I'll do the best I can, and I'm handling it a lot better than I used to.
4 Parcells underlings ascended. Ray Handley took over in New York when Parcells left there. He is the least known of the quartet, though, and least successful. The other 3, all Super Bowl winning coaches. From 2003 to 2005, Parcells' assistant head coach, Sean Payton.
There were all sorts of things that would come up. He'd whisper to you on the way out to the practice field, hey, I'm going to be I'm going to be a little harder on you today at practice. And he wasn't going to get after the quarterbacks. He was going to get after the guy coaching them.
You're too nice to these guys. What are you guys doing in the meetings? Toasting marshmallows?
Peyton helped turn Drew Brees into a Hall of Fame quarterback, the pair leading the Saints to their only Super Bowl win.
Parcells said it. You gotta have balls to win this game.
I'm telling you, you set the record.
This system still has lots of life left to it, with Peyton still going. Took over in Denver in 2023 and has a moon that's growing bigger by the year. Dan Campbell just started his head coaching career in 2021. And by 2023, the energetic young coach had already guided the Lions back to the playoffs.
And it's been 30 years! 30 years! Championship! It's special, man!
Parcells' wide receiver coach from 1988 to 1990 in New York, Tom Coughlin. Coughlin landed the Boston College job after his time with Parcells, then returned to the pro game with the Jacksonville Jaguars, his tenure there lasting from 1995 to 2002. They reached the AFC Championship game twice. Coughlin then returned to the Giants in 2004, winning 2 Super Bowl titles.
I've gone from a guy who wouldn't play for him for 1 year to a guy who wouldn't play for anybody else if I had to go back and play football.
2 Lombardis, one with Eli Manning doing his quarterbacking, both coming at the hands of Tom Brady, who was being coached by Bill Belichick.
It's football time, fellas. Let's get into it.
Belichick was Parcells' defensive coordinator with the Giants, the Browns initially the first to hand him the top coaching spot.
I think all 4 teams are capable of beating each other on any given day and beating a lot of other people in the league.
Belichick was there from 1991 to 1995. He led them back to the playoffs too, but it was his only winning year with them, so he went back to Parcells as his DB coach in New England in 1996. 97 is when Parcells leaves for the Jets, takes Belichick with him. When Parcells retires in 2000, the job was Belichick's, except that at his introductory press conference, he turns the job down.
Due to the various uncertainties surrounding my position as it relates to the team's new ownership, I've decided to resign as the head coach of the New York Jets.
He ends up, of course, in New England, where the rest, they say, is history.
I'm not a scientist. Now moving on to Cincinnati. That's what Mr. Kraft's paying me to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, you, Mason. Just you, will ya? Why don't we talk after the game, all right? Just shut the up.
You guys need to stretch. Maybe that's a problem. Too much gossiping and not enough stretching.
2001 to 2019, no losing records, 9 trips to the Super Bowl, 6 Super Bowl wins. No other coach has 5.
All right, look, it's done. It's done. Shut up and let's go.
Belichick is considered a defensive mastermind as well, but he also inherited the control Parcells previously wanted as GM. He was ahead of his time, balancing talent against contract value, which allowed the Patriots to remain elite for an unprecedented 2-decade window.
Oh, we're champs! We're champions!
Belichick's coaching style also steals a page from the Landry Noel Paul Brown book, Do Your Job. His famous motto was a directive to always remain focused on the details, the outcome of a play or game, almost secondary in Belichick's mind to whether players were executing the task at hand.
Tom, look, settle down now, buddy. Step into the throw, okay?
I was thrilled when I threw it.
Did you get hit on that?
Yeah, he was blitzing. I tried to lob it over him because the guy was standing right in his face.
Like the one to Maroney?
It was right in his hands.
It was over his head.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Just step into it, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Belichick has produced all sorts of offshoots. He had 8 first-generation assistants land head coaching jobs. Nick Saban, the most successful, though most of his success came at the college level. Belichick is currently survived by Matt LaFleur, who hails from the Mike Vrabel tree. He was his OC in Tennessee before moving on to Green Bay. Vrabel, an assistant of Bill O'Brien's in Houston before he took over in Tennessee. O'Brien, an OC of Belichick's multiple times during his career. But let's finish our journey with the youngest NFL solar system to have sprung up. Started by Dallas's Jimmy Johnson, who cut his teeth in the college ranks before taking over the Cowboys in 1989.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Johnson turned Dallas into a dynasty in the 90s, won back-to-back Lombardis, and was the first head coach to win a Super Bowl and a college national championship.
Irvin is open. Touchdown. The party has begun in Miami. Look at Jimmy Johnson. The demons are gone. He's a national championship coach.
Johnson and owner Jerry Jones would eventually have a falling out, and that led to Johnson's departure. He rounded out his career by replacing Don Shula in Miami in 1996. Dolphins made the playoffs 3 of the 4 years he was there.
It was disappointing because we didn't win a championship, but we're in the playoffs 3 straight years. We won a couple of playoff games. So we did okay, but for me, that was disappointing.
His system is in jeopardy of drying out, though. He had 4 assistants leave the nest for top jobs: Dave Wannstedt, David Shula, Butch Davis, and Norv Turner. Turner went on to lead 3 teams: Washington, Oakland, San Diego. In 2009, he and his Chargers squad finished with a 13-3 record.
We know what it means to him for us to win and for us to succeed, and he definitely got the respect of that locker room.
While in San Diego, Turner's defensive coordinator, Ron Rivera, who took Carolina and Cam Newton to the Super Bowl. Rivera also coached in Washington, but his defensive coordinator with the Panthers, Sean McDermott of the Bills.
We don't care how anybody else is win. This is how we win. As a team. As a team. Extremely proud of you, man. That's playoff caliber all the way through, baby.
McDermott responsible for Brian Dable, his offensive coordinator in Buffalo and subsequent New York Giants head coach. 524 men have held the position of NFL head coach over the league's first 104 years. Palace holds the record for most years with 40. Shula coached the most games at 526 if you include playoffs. Lambeau, the most consecutive seasons with 1 team at 29. Belichick, the record holder for Super Bowl titles with 6.
Some people have trouble with math. Other people have trouble with the English language. I have trouble with both of them.
Who's up next, and where do they take the game? When do we see a 20-something-year-old take over? Will we ever see a system as full as Paul Brown's? The answers appearing soon in the NFL's forever growing coaching universe.